Okay, you want me to?
I'm gonna.
Okay. I call this meeting of the County Commission together this morning. First order of business is to, because of Jack's unable to be here and I've been out of pocket for 5 days, that I need to have Rogers chair the meeting today, and I'd like to make a motion that we accept Rogers as chairman, temporary chairman, this morning's meeting. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Second, Tommy. Tommy seconded.
Got seconds, Steve.
We have seconds everywhere. So I got to turn it over to Rogers, and I thank you, Rogers.
Okay, you're ready.
Well, thank you. Before we get started, we do want to remember Jack in our prayers this morning. And Lou, thank you for hanging in there for the last several days. I know it's been a very rough ride. Also, we have keep Tom Bain in those prayers this morning, also because of he's experiencing some very difficult times in his life likewise. And then we have one of our own, Kevin Benson's mother, passed away yesterday. So it just seems like they come in. And Sheriff Long had a brother to pass away over the weekend likewise. So there's been a rash of them this weekend, and I would ask that we stand for the invocation. I'm going to ask Matt Milligan. I know they're written down here, but Matt had asked me to say the prayer this morning. And in the pledge, who we got doing the pledge? So Mr. Lawrence, thank you.
Father, we're thankful for this moment to be gathered together today. We're thankful for this room. We're thankful for the people that are here, no matter what seat they sit in. We're thankful that we're children of God, so that no matter what seat we're in this auditorium, there's equality among us all as brothers and sisters in Christ. Father, we're mindful of those who are not here. We're mindful of those who are hurting. We pray that you'll be watchful over Jack Walton. Continue to bless him and bless his recovery, bless his health. We're thankful that Lou is here today, Lord. We pray that you continue to bless him and his recovery. We're thankful for his service and for his example that he sets for us, for his diligence and dedication to this body and to the talents you've given him. We ask that you continue to watch over Tom Bain and his family and give him comfort and rest and peace and continue to heal his body, Lord. Father, we ask that you be with Kevin Benson and his family as his mother passed. Bring them peace, Lord, and bring them and surround them with friends and family who will love them and serve them in this time. And the same for Sheriff Long. We're thankful for his hard work to this community. We're thankful for the way in which he strives to serve and for his hard work and dedication. We pray that now that you would surround him and let others serve him during this time. Help us remember, Lord, today that the things we do here echo for generations, but the things we do for you echo for eternity. Help us to remember as your children that when we disagree, to disagree with civility, to give thoughtfulness to our positions, and to do everything with the best intentions and integrity that we know how to do with our simple minds. We thank you now for these moments. It's in your son's name we pray. Amen. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, please look on your desk. Look for the one that's marked revised agenda. There is also the late file that's included that. There are two of them. These are two leases that we have. They are on your revised agenda, 7/17/40 and 7/17/41. At this time, I'll ask if anybody is objecting to either one of those, please make it known. I see none. We'll move on into We need to do the roll call now. Mrs. Anderson, would you please, everyone that's here, please push the button. Those that aren't, don't push it. Mr. Hester. Thank you. Ms. Anderson.
Got 23 present, 1 absent. Commissioner Walton.
Thank you. First item of business we have the approval of the minutes of our regular June commission meeting. I entertain a motion. Proper motion. Do I have a second? Thank you. Motion's been made and second to approve the minutes. Questions? Ready to vote? All in favor of the minutes signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Let the records reflect that it was unanimous. Under citizens' communication, I have one individual signed up, a Mr. Ronnie Steinfeld. Come on up, Ronnie. You get an opportunity right now during the citizens' communication to which to address the county commissioners if you'd like. If not, you can certainly stick around for the day's activities where we do not take citizens' comments during that section. You're welcome. Let the records reflect he chose not to speak at this particular time. Any other citizens? We don't have communication messages. As we said, we've got 2 late file resolutions in which there were no objections on the leases. I think that's all we've got for the citizens for the communications this morning. So if you will, note on your revised agenda form that at 11:30 we're going to travel down to the County Enrichment Center. That's at Academy Park for lunch. We'll try to break from here at about 11:15 or 11:20. And when you travel down there, if you would, we'll be taking a photo at that time.
Out at the fountain.
So in between the Enrichment Center and the Performing Theater, there's a water feature, and that's where the photo is going to be taken today, outside, where it's good and cool. Ready to get started? We got a full agenda. Reports of the county offices. From my seat, I'll just let Nina come on up and settle in a little bit. I know we have a long meeting. She will be going through the process, and we'll get to that when we get to the actual resolutions. Nina?
Thank you, Mayor. Commission. Have several reports to review with you today. The first packet I'll go over with you was the one that was left on your desk. I emailed those to you as well over the weekend to try to give you an opportunity to look over them before you got here. We have the detailed budget summary, which is showing our fiscal year-end fund balances is the first column that we ended June with, which are our beginning balances for the upcoming year. The next report is a fiscal year-end fund balance comparison. Just give you a snapshot of the last few years. I think there's about 10 years on there, showing how our funds have performed. Have your month-end 6/30/2017 report. These have our county funds on there. The schools are still working through theirs to get theirs closed out. There were really no surprises for me as we reviewed the budgets as they closed out this year. Also have a report, the education impact fee. You can see over the last 4 months how that's performed. I think we had a calculation error in the total. To date, we've received $2.5 million. There has been a little over $349,000 of that paid under protest. Your June privilege tax report, we received a little over $1.9 million for the month. Your net revenue line shows our ending balances for the year. Our adequate schools facilities tax, there is enough balance there to cover the upcoming resolution. The next column under schools, the resolution that is in your packet, we have appropriated $6.2 million. So we closed the year out a little, $200,000, a little less than what we have in the appropriation. But once we transfer the monies over at the end of June, we'll have that full balance in there. Next, you have your chart that shows the privilege tax history and how that's performed. Also in your packet, try to give you a snapshot of the privilege tax. It goes back to 2003-04, and the total at the bottom is how much we have collected to date from the beginning of time with this. So to date, we've collected a little over $198 million through our privilege taxes. The next sheet, I won't read over that with you. I thought it might just be some interesting information for you all on how the privilege taxes have performed throughout the history of those collections. Then in your packet that was mailed to you, there were a few reports in there as well. You have your May month-end reports, which I guess that's kind of past now. Our privilege tax collections for the month of May were $1.2 million. Our May Marriott report, we did have a loss this month, $14,551.50 that we paid back to them. But your next sheet, you will see how we've performed throughout the history of our collections on that. So to the life of the Marriott has been $2.7 million that we have in profits. Also in your packet is just our budget history form that I try to give to you each year. For 2018, our total expenditures are $557,746,817. 63% of that is schools, and 36% is all the other funds. Also report to you, if you take out the school's debt and put that over into the school column, that comes up to about 75% schools, and the remainder the rest of the government. Also in your packets are the debt management policy. There were no changes from the previous year. So each year, this is on our website as well, but the Office of, State Office of Local Finance requests that we include a hard copy in your packets for you all to read over. I've also given you an outstanding debt summary. As of June 30, 2017, this is just a snapshot of our outstanding debt. The direct debt for the county at this point in time is $592,135,000. Our net debt, if you take out the self-supporting of the hospital and the parks portion that Spring Hill pays us, our net debt is $548,714,000. I think that's all of my reports.
Questions? Commissioner Sturgeon?
Yeah, Nina, I noticed there was a TR commission on the educational impact fee. Can you just explain what that is? Who's
That's abbreviation for Trustees Commission.
Oh, okay.
You know, we've talked about that when they collect revenues.
What percent is that commission?
I think it's 1%.
1%. Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Lawrence?
Good morning, Nina.
Good morning.
I had a couple of questions. I'm still trying to learn as a new commissioner how some of the debt works at the county and how we appropriate these things. I noticed, you know, the Rural Debt Service Fund was the fund that came under a lot of pressure at the end of the year, so we're all kind of sensitive to that. You've increased that from 16 million this year to 18, a little over 18 million, so about 1.3 million next year. Where's that money coming from? Is that from the pennies that we moved around, or?
Yes, sir. When you come to the appropriation for the setting the tax levy this year, our overall total remained the same at 215, but we did transfer 3 cents from the highway fund, 1 cent to the general debt service, and 2 cents to rural debt service.
Okay.
So that is reflected in the budget.
Okay, so is that going to give us more borrowing capacity, or is that simply catching up to what we've already borrowed?
That's simply catching up to what we've borrowed.
Okay. All right, I have another question about the general debt service. When I was researching the hospital, some of the finances on that, there's a bond that we let apparently in 2002 for $20 million, and there's a $1.5 million a year payment on that. And I noticed that we're getting from the hospital $4.3 million for debt service. Is that $1.5 million included in that 4.3?
I would have to look back. I know throughout the history, we did have a $20 million that the hospital does pay us back for, and a $20 million gift to them. So within that, I'm not sure if that's the portion that they pay back.
Okay, so
I would have to look that up and get back with you on that.
okay. When you say gift, we gave them $20 million that we borrowed, and we're paying the tax on that?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Are we paying the principal and interest back
Yes.
on that? Okay. All right, and on the impact fee money, what about that money paid under protest? Is that just going to be frozen and we can't use that money, or how are we going to handle those funds going forward?
We will just hold those in a separate account. There is a process that the individuals go through as they're paying. We'll just see as we go through the end of that process what becomes of it.
Okay, and the rest of it, are we going to be able to start using that in this fiscal year going forward, or?
You know, when we looked at those models for debt service, we had anticipated being able to use that. The process that they're going through, it could lead to a lawsuit. I'm not sure yet, so that might be something that we'd hold off a little bit just to see how that's going to perform, and if I think we will be clear on it, but until we get through that protest process, we may not want to fully use those funds yet.
Okay. That's all my questions, Mayor. Thank you, Nina.
Commissioner Kestner?
Nina, back on the paid under protest question. Well, first I would note that in June, I think we got $962,000 of total impact fee, and if we step up to full rate in September and then we annualize that, that would be a run rate of about 23.1 million, which is pretty cool. That would service debt of about 340 million if we used all of that for debt service. But back to the paid under protest question. I guess we've had some hearings, and I don't know if Mr. Horn has conducted, I don't know who
who presides at those hearings, and are they here today, and can they kind of give us an update?
Mr. Kessler, can I interrupt you a little
Please,
bit and answer?
yes.
Because Nina's not necessarily been in those meetings, and I have.
Been all of
Right.
If I could extend the courtesy of asking Bobby Cook to come up and explain
That's,
that. He's
I
sat
was
through every one
looking
of
for
those.
whoever,
And explain the
presided.
processes we're going through, and we have several to go through as of yet, if that's okay with this commission body.
that's what I was looking for, thank you.
Mr. Mayor, Commissioners, Mayor's correct. We are currently going through a process where a builder, developer can pay under protest. We have a certain amount of time when we can hold the hearing. They are able to come and present their argument. The county presents theirs, and then the board rules. As of today, I believe we've met 4 times, and we've been successful 4 times. However, they do have the ability to appeal the decision of the board to the courts, and that's where we're at right now. We have the meetings probably every other week right now because everybody seems to be paying under protest.
Commissioner,
I'd let, and we think, well, we think we're on solid ground, I know, but I think Commissioner Lawrence may have a question.
Mr. Lawrence.
Who are the builders that are paying under protest?
Drees Builders is probably the big one. Landmark, O South, the Jones Company, and that's what I can remember off the top of my head. There's only 4 or 5, but they're appealing every property that they come in for a building permit application. So we'll hear anywhere from 10 to 20 different appeals.
And those are some of our bigger builders in the county, correct?
Drees is, yes. Drees and O South do quite a bit of business.
Okay.
And are the arguments all similar from the builders, or are they?
Exact same.
Got it. Are they trying to claim that they had lots that predated this?
One of the arguments is that they have vested rights, which concerns, I don't want to get into it, but it concerns the design standards, you know, the way a road's got to be built in the subdivision, the amount of open space that you've got to provide, sewer, those sort of
But
things. Well,
generally
they're
vest-
claiming that a fee is a design standard, which...
But generally vesting occurs when you pull a permit, and until you pull a permit, you haven't pulled a permit, isn't that right?
No, vesting
No?
can be at another level if approval is given at a certain level. Like preliminary plat, you don't have to build you don't have to pull a building permit.
Once you get
Once
the
you get
plat-
that preliminary, they get certain rights. It's our stance that that's not a vested right, so those aren't triggered.
So, excuse me, one of the things that's interesting about this is, even if those builders were going to win these appeals, which I don't think they will, over time you wash all those out, and your impact fee stays intact, and you continue
Correct.
to generate this revenue that we intended to generate.
Correct.
Got it. Thanks.
Other questions? Good questions. Where am I at?
Over here on the far right.
David.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Bobby, does it matter if a city approved a development plan, but yet we are imposing the tax? Does that have anything to do with whether their argument?
A city? We don't have anything to do with the cities.
Well, if the city approved the development plans,
No,
okay.
no. It's all the same. You get when you get a certain approval, which under the law is preliminary plat approval, certain things you have vested. Okay, your design standards for your roads, you can't change those during a certain period. An impact fee is not a design standard. It's a revenue raising. So.
Other questions? Follow up? Ready to move on? Any other questions for Nina? You'll see a lot of her today. Moving on to Dr. Looney.
Good morning, Mr. Mayor, Chairman, Commissioners, good to see you. I'll keep my report brief. We're in the middle of summer. We're recruiting, replacing personnel, and preparing for the school year. As you know, the school board did authorize a reduction in their proposed budget to meet the stipulations that was provided by the County Commission, various committees. Glad to answer any questions you might have before we get to the budget.
Any questions? Commissioner Lawrence.
Good morning, Dr. Looney.
Morning, sir.
I just have a couple questions. just looking forward at the capital outlay plan for the next year, you've got on the current capital outlay plan, you're requesting a need for approximately $90 million for new school construction. I just wanted to know from your perspective, you get your crystal ball out, how accurate do you think that number is? Because last year we saw a big jump when the numbers came out in December. And so are we going to see something like that again, or is that number going to be pretty close to what you think you're going to need next year, or do you anticipate other needs that are going to come up that may add quite a bit to that?
Depends on thank you for your question. It depends on the decisions of the school board. As an example, the school board has had on its capital improvement plan the two theaters that are remaining to be done. It could very well be that they add those back. I just don't know. I can tell you at the current date, this is as accurate information as we can. It is not unusual, and I wouldn't be surprised if in December we have additional needs identified that follow your process, that your timeline for the 5-year capital plan to be submitted, which doesn't coincide with the funding timeline that you also operate under. Right. So we have a little bit of two different systems operating on two different timelines.
Yeah. That's my concern, so that's why I asked the question.
Yes, sir.
But right now, you don't anticipate a big need for additional schools that you haven't got on the list here?
For additional schools, no, sir.
Okay. Okay. Another question I have is I'm a little concerned about what happened at the split log school recently with the bid process and the fact that we got only 2 bids on that, and the bids came in 30% higher than what we projected. I'm just wondering what you think. Is this something we're going to see going forward on the other projects for Page and Brentwood? And, you know, if that's the case on these other schools, you know, are we looking at increasing these numbers by 30% or more because of the construction environment right now?
I wish I had a good answer for you. I think it's important to remember that the Split Log Road Elementary School is the exact same elementary school that we've built multiple times, with the exception of a few fire marshal required changes. Essentially the same building, so we have good history in the cost of construction of those buildings. As I've articulated in a couple of additional meetings, the reality of it is that the labor market is very tight for construction type workers, especially specialized industries. Plumbing, electrical workers are hard to come by because of the tremendous growth that's happening in Middle Tennessee. I would say that will continue so long as there's a lot of growth, commercial growth in Middle Tennessee. There's a limited number of vendors that provide that service, and you know, labor costs will reflect what the labor market is doing. Whether that lasts 18 months or 10 years, I don't know. Based on the forecast of the community, the expected growth trajectory in our community over the course of the next 10 years, I would say that we probably are in line for paying premiums for commercial construction in Williamson County moving forward in the near future.
How many bids do we normally get when we bid out a school?
We solicited over 30 contractors, I believe, for this particular job. Most of the contractors that we typically get to the table are full of work and can't take on additional work at this point in time. We usually end up with 6 to 8 bids on average. In this case, we only ended up with 2.
Okay. Okay, that's all my questions, Mayor. Thank you, Dr. Looney.
Commissioner Kastner?
Yes. Hey, Superintendent, how you doing?
Good morning.
Couple of comments and then one question. So, you know, as Greg mentioned, we did have the problem of our cycle that we budget on, and in fact, we got surprises in December, which was a few months after we had approved the budget. And so, I would encourage you to, I don't want to say ignore our timing, but if you know something before our timing requires you to tell us, please tell us in advance so that we can start factoring that into our thinking, irrespective of what our formal process and formal schedule is, because I really don't care about that. I want to know, you know, when you know. I'd like to know what you know. Second comment is just because we built the same building a number of times in the case of Split Log, if the prices are going to go through the roof, we may have to revisit that design and figure out if there are any things we can do to perhaps save money. I don't know if there are or not, but that's something we ought to look at and not just assume that we have the best possible design forevermore. We might, but we need to test that. And then my one question, which contractor was awarded that job, by the way? Was that Biskin or who at Split Log?
I can't name the... Jason, do you know who the contractor is? I'll have to get back with you.
Oh, yeah,
Commissioner. I don't know.
I'd be curious. Are they local, or are they out of town, or they, or what?
I believe it's a local. It's a local.
Local
company.
firm, okay. I'd like to know who they are.
Sure.
Okay, thanks.
Commissioner Ryan?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Dr. Looney, has there been any more conversation within the school board regarding building larger schools?
Yes, sir. We're actually doing that.
Okay, I understand, but as far as now, even bigger ones, in order to try to save money in terms of property acquisition, the construction costs.
So the school board, at this body's request, examined that issue and has readjusted or has adjusted the maximum capacity of schools. In this particular case, we have two different capacities for elementary school, whether it's a K-8 combination complex or just a K-5. In order for the zoning to work and for everything to kind of, the puzzle pieces to fit, this is the right size school at the elementary level to serve the capacity needs for the split log area.
Okay.
So we have adjusted that. I will tell you, we're not, philosophically, we're not in the place of building 2,000 student elementary schools. That's not the board's desire at this point in time.
No, understood. But I think there's probably some room there where we could possibly make some slightly larger ones. High school's capacity stands at 1,800?
We can build up to 2,400 students.
Okay, but what, in terms of right now, what's the largest that we have?
Well, the average is 1,800 students right now.
Okay, okay.
R.G. Anderson is the contractor that was awarded the bid. I think there's something I haven't clearly articulated, I think, and it's probably a shortcoming on my part. One of the things that's very different about this site is there's a lot of rock on the site. And so, to be honest with you, some of the increased costs are due specifically to the site work. There's a lot of rock, a lot of additional site preparation that has to happen. So I think absent that, it still would have been a significant increase, but it wouldn't have been I think the site package is $3 million. So.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. That's all I have.
Thank you, Commissioner Ford. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Dr. Looney, for being here today. Will the issues going on with split log, will that affect the opening of a year from August?
At this point in time, we fully expect to have that building open in August of 2018.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, follow-on question. You're reminding me of our education committee meeting, and at the time when we first heard about this increase, I asked how many kids were at the school, and I think the capital plan shows 825, and I think Jason said, well, it's 890. How should, which is it, and are these really 890 kids, or are they 825? How should I think about these buildings?
The building that specific building will hold 890 students.
Okay, so it's a little different from some of the others that we built. I'm thinking back about your 5-year plan. And
yes, sir. The difference is that building design preceded the school board's minimum capacity of 825.
Okay.
And so that's why there's a disparity there. But that same design building will hold 890 students.
And going forward, we'll be doing 890s instead of 825s, we think? I'm just trying to
It
plan.
depends on whether it's a K-8 or a standalone elementary school.
Okay. K-8.
We do not plan on changing the design of our elementary schools because we believe that's a really good design.
Okay.
And so we think we're going to stay consistent with that.
Okay. I'm fine, thanks.
Thank you, Mayor. Quick question.
Yes.
When the school board approved the increase in capacity sizes, and then the school board approved, and then the commission funded the improvements at Brentwood, that not only is site improvements and everything else for the school, but it also increases capacity, and it's at a greater savings than building an entire campus somewhere else and having to go through all that entire process. What is the capacity now going to be at Brentwood?
It's going to be 2,000 students at Brentwood High School and 1,500 students at Brentwood Middle School.
Thank you.
Seeing none, we'll move on. I have a request for a health report from Kathy Montgomery. Thank you, Dr.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mayor. Good morning. You have in front of you this morning some lockable drug cabinets, but before I explain a little bit about that, I wanted to kind of preface things for you this morning with a brief story. something that occurred at the health department several weeks ago when a grandmother came into our facility with her grandson who was under the age of 2 years old. She had just retained temporary emergency custody of that child after mom was arrested for possession of meth and for abandoning that child in the backyard of a meth house that she frequented. And this was what was reported to us. We see this far too frequently in our health department, and I know many of our agencies are being impacted now by substance abuse in our county. But for that grandmother that day, we had successful outcomes. Tammy Mangrum, who is our office supervisor, and her administrative team worked together to reinstate this child's TennCare so that he could have health care. She also worked to get the child in to see our pediatrician that day, and that child did receive a physical exam. Our nurses, Carrie and Amanda Johnson, Carrie Olson, worked that child up, reviewed his immunization records, and were able to give the immunizations that were needed to keep that child up to date on his vaccines. Oletha Boyd issued a birth certificate that day for the grandmother. Crystal Nall, who is one of our care coordinators, reached out to the community and was able to locate a car seat for that child, for that grandmother, and actually met the grandmother at Franklin Fire Department where a certified technician installed that car seat for her. So I say all this because we have so many tremendous resources in this community. In front of you, like I said, you have the lockable drug cabinets. About 6 years ago, the Williamson County Anti-Drug Coalition was formed, and it's a partnership of local law enforcement, juvenile court, drug addiction agencies, and it's chaired by Alex Windings, who is our coalition chair. We are working in the community to do, to really focus on strategies and activities targeting alcohol, tobacco, and substance use and abuse. Some of the activities that we've done, for example, have been quarterly drug takebacks, and this past one, I'm proud to announce that we were able to voluntarily seize almost 700 pounds of medication in this community. The drug cabinets that we have for you are for you to take and hopefully get the word out to some of your constituents in your community that we have these things available to lock up these drugs and prescriptions that are, in the household. Many of the folks that are in substance counseling now report that a lot of times that they will get their medications out of friends and families' medicine cabinets at their homes. So we encourage you to take those back and to give them to whoever might need them or use them yourself. I want to close just briefly by saying a big thank you to our grandparents, to foster families, and other caregivers who open up their homes and their hearts to these children to take care of them. Secondly, I want to applaud our health department team. We have a team of caring and compassionate workers, and they do so much for this community. And finally, I have to give accolades to this commission, because without your support and the decisions that you make to allocate funds to our different agencies and to a lot of nonprofits, none of this would be possible. We really try to pool our resources together and work together through our different agencies and collaborate. So it's not very often that you get to hear success stories about the things that your money does for us, so in this community. So I want to thank you.
have a second? Proper motion and second for Mr. Reese to be the nominee. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? Let the records reflect it was unanimous. Under the County Commission, Roman numeral 8, Equalization Board, term expiring by the decease of Mr. Mongen, and the nominee is John Magyard. Do I have a motion?
This is the one that we're just confirming.
This is, we have a proper motion and second. We're going to ahead and vote, but let everybody know this is really a confirmation. Each of our cities put someone on the Equalization Board. Franklin puts one on, and Brentwood, and this is a Brentwood. When Emil passed away, we needed one, so we'll go ahead and vote for the Brentwood representation. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? Let the records reflect that it was unanimous. Under the Library Board of Trustees, 3-year term, Ms. Terry Hood. His term is expiring, and she has likewise been the nominee for the next 3 years. I'll entertain a motion. Proper motion and second to accept Ms. Hood for the 3-year term. Ready to vote? All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? Let the records reflect that it was unanimous. Water and Wastewater Authority. This is a 5-year term for our WW Authority. The industrial representative is Michael Delvises. He's also coming off that term and agreed to serve for another term. Entertain a motion. Thank you. Proper motion and second by Mr. Jones. Ready to vote? All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? Let the records reflect that it was unanimous. Under the Hospital Board of Trustees, this is the medical staff appointment. The MEC makes this nomination, comes forward to the Board of Trustees, and eventually makes its way over here. Dr. Bertherm, his term's expiring, and Dr. Bertherm's name has been mentioned as the nominee from the MEC. Entertain a motion. Proper motion and seconded. Ready to vote? All in favor of Dr. Bertherm signify by saying aye. Those opposed, let the records reflect that it was unanimous. In your packet today, you have a sheet that lists the rules steering human resources and park recreation. Normally at this time of the year, we would break and you'd get into your groups and you would go through your different districts and pick someone. This is the last of the 4-year run. So wherever you are. And you're serving on those terms. And to make this even a little bit more speedy for the June 14th minute and our minute taker, Jeff, if somebody will make a motion to spread the report as listed, we'll do it that way. That way everybody gets listed. Mr. Jones, and coming right on down the list as the rule for the rules. First rules. Do I have a motion to accept the names as listed for the rules? And we're going to do these on the spread. In other words, how they're listed without reading them all off. Is that all right with everybody? All right. Any other questions? We're voting on the rules. First one, all in favor, signify by saying aye. Opposed? Let the records reflect that it was unanimous. Under the steering for June 14th, July 10th, excuse me. Proper motion and second for the steering committee. Advin?
Yes.
We got one correction. Thank you. Mr. Hullett will be in the place of Mr. Bain. Any other comment? Ready to vote on the steering committee. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? Let the records reflect it was unanimous. Under Human Resources, proper motion. Proper secondly. Yeah, he's listed there. Ready to vote? All in favor of the Human Resources as listed by district signify by saying aye. Opposed? Let the records reflect that it was unanimous. Under Parks and Recreation Committee, I'll entertain a motion. Proper motion and seconded. He's listed there too. Ready to vote? All in favor of the Parks and Rec Committee signify by saying aye. Opposed? Let the records reflect that it was unanimous. Thank you all very much.
Withdrawn. I need the consent agenda.
Next item we have on our agenda will be the consent agenda. I'll entertain a motion to accept those. Proper motion. Second for the consent agenda. questions? Ready to vote? Got to do this one by machine. If you're in favor of the consent agenda, please push the yes button. Those opposed, the no button. Everyone that's voted wants to vote. Just for the record, Mr. Ryan had to step out for a business call, but he will be back. You ready to vote? Ms. Anderson, would you record the record for the record, please?
Yes, sir. 22 yes,
Thank you.
2 absent.
Under unfinished business, Roman number 10, that has been withdrawn by the maker. Is that correct? 717 one's been pulled by the maker, correct?
That's for an explanation.
We do have, somebody wants an explanation.
Okay, the explanation is, we have got a resolution asking for $6 million for Split Log Road, and basically, we don't have the money. We just don't have the money. You know, we do have the school impact fee that we're looking at and possible sales tax. So we see how the voters feel about increasing the sales tax, and then maybe we can possibly look at funding these. But right now, we just do not have the money.
Thank you. We have a question by Commissioner Osbrooks.
Not in response to this, I thought we moved on to new business.
Okay. Any questions towards the full resolution? Under new business then, Commissioner?
Thank you, Mayor. I wanted to read this in for the record before we got started because I'm a member of the Williamson County Board of Commissioners and an employee of Williamson County Schools. I may have a conflict of interest in the proposed budget about to be voted. However, I declare my argument and my vote answer only to my conscience and to my obligation to my constituents and the citizens which this body represents. I've also signed it, dated it today. Thank you.
Thank you. In fact, all of us, we need to do that every year at this time. So if I can hitchhike off from your conflict of interest statement and everyone's agreement with that, you should have that in your possession in front of you. You will need to sign that, and you will need to date that, and we need to give that to Mrs. Anderson electronically. Didn't get it. We'll get some copies for you.
How many need it by show of hands?
All right, let's take a 5-minute recess because we can't go forward until we do. Give me take 5 minutes. We'll come back at 10 o'clock. We still need a couple of signatures and turn those in.
We can't go.
I've got to get them all in before we go. Can we identify the ones that aren't, Jeff? And we've got a couple of students with us today, and their parents work for Williamson County government. I'm going to have the parents stand and introduce their children. They're here on Government Day. It's always good to that. In fact, why don't they just come on up while we're waiting? Come on up, Leslie and Amanda. We always like to introduce our children, and it's good for them. Come on, Leslie, bring her up. Amanda, come on.
Hey, Jeff's mic is not working.
These are some of the older moms or the employees. I didn't get any brownie points for that, did I? I should have said. Mike Weber's sitting back there cringing. Amanda, introduce yourself, where you work, and who you've got with you today.
I am Amanda Noah. I work in the accounting department and on the government side. And my daughter Bailey is a rising sophomore at Independence High School.
All right, welcome with us.
Hi, baby.
Leslie, come on up.
I'm Leslie Mitchell. I'm the purchasing agent for the government side. This is my daughter Lauren, and she is a rising 8th grader at Grassland Middle.
How about that, huh? Now it's official. They're in the book forever. They can get credit.
Oh, yeah.
We're just missing Brandon now, so when he gets back, before he starts, we'll give his.
Okay.
Okay, good to go.
So we're ready to move on with item Roman numeral 11. We have no zoning issues this morning. We're moving into the appropriations, and so if I could have Nina make her way up, and we'll start with that process like we have done for many years. Once Dana makes the motion on the resolution, we'll read the major categories. Nina will read those off with the total on each one of those. We'll vote on each one of those. For an example, on the first one under general fund, we'll list the general administration. If you have questions about the general administration, all of those above, please feel free to do that. We'll take a vote on each one of those, and then we'll take a grand total vote at the conclusion of that. I'd like to say, if I can, from the chair, I've been at this 31 years, counting my county commission time, and I think it was the most challenging one, and I thank so many of the people that are involved to make this a balanced budget this year without a tax increase, and certainly Nina and her staff, Dana and all the budget committee members, and so many other people have worked long weekends and at night, and I thank you very much for that. So, getting into the appropriations, the first one, resolution number 7/1713, resolution making appropriation of the various funds, departments, institutions, offices, and agencies of Williamson County, Tennessee for the fiscal year beginning July 1, 2017 and ending June 30th, 2018. Commissioner Osbrook.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Move for approval.
Second. Proper motion and seconded. Committee reports. We'll get to that. Budget committee.
3 for, 0 against.
Thank you. So at this time, Nina?
If I could thank my staff as well. Like the mayor said, we had some late nights and weekends, had 3 work on the 4th, and I appreciate Phoebe Riley, our finance manager, and also Jacob Kennedy helped with the budget book this year. So I appreciate all my staff and their hard work that they put in. So if you'd like to follow along in your budget book on page 26, the total general administration is $14,507,807.
Questions on the 14 million plus? I see none. We ready to vote? I need a motion on the subtotal, please.
So moved.
Second.
Proper motion, and pick who you want second. On the 14,507,807. Ready to vote? All in favor signify by saying aye. It's on the machine. I'm sorry. It's been so long that we did this before machines. That'll help out my other remark I made earlier. Lou and Bert, there you go. That's all right. That's before machines too. Ms. Anderson, would you record the vote, please?
22 yes.
Thank you. Nina?
Page 27, total finance, $5,235 and $235.39.
Thank you. I'll entertain a motion to take the subcategory. Thank you. Second, properly. Questions? See none. You ready to vote on the $5,235,039? All in favor signify, the machine, please. Push the yes button. Everybody voted that wishes to vote? Ms. Anderson, would you record the vote?
22 yes.
Nina?
Page 29, total administration of justice, $4,254,297.
Entertain a motion on the sub. Proper motion and second. Questions? Ready to vote? Please, all in favor, push your yes button. Those the no button. Anyone wishing to change your vote must please do so at this time. Ready, Ms. Anderson? Waiting on Ms. Anderson.
22 yes.
Nina, on public safety?
Page 32, total public safety, $28,245,285.
Dana?
Yes, sir. Move for approval.
Questions? On the public safety? See none. On the $28,245,285, all in favor, please push their yes button. Those opposed, the no button. Anyone wishing to change their vote, please do so at this time. Mrs. Anderson, would you record?
22 yes.
Thank you. Nina, on the public health and welfare?
Page 34, total public health and welfare, $5,141,360.
Move for approval.
Proper motion and second. Questions on the public health and welfare? I see none. Ready to vote on the $5,141,360,000. If you do, please push the yes button if you agree, the no button if you disagree. Anyone wishing to change your vote, please do so at this time. Mrs. Anderson, would you record the vote, please?
22 yes.
Thank you. The amendment, the subtotal is approved. Anina, on the social, cultural, and recreational services.
Page 36, the total is $17,289,359.
Dana?
Move for approval.
Proper motion and second. Questions? I see none. We're going to move on and vote on the $17,289,359. If you're in favor of that, push your yes button. If you're not, push the no button. Anyone wishing to change your vote, please do so at this time. Mrs. Anderson?
22 yes.
Thank you. It passes. The next one is agricultural and natural resources. Nina?
Total on page 37, $510,382.
Move for approval.
Proper motion and seconded. Questions? I see none. If you're in favor of the $510,382 for agricultural and natural resources, please press your yes button. If you're opposed, push the no button. Anyone wishing to change their vote, please do so at this time. Mrs. Anderson, would you record the vote?
22 yes.
Subtotal passes. Nina, on the other general government.
Page 38, total $21,713,154.
Dana?
Move for approval.
Proper motion second. I'll entertain any questions. I see none. We're ready to vote on the other general government of $21,713,154. And if you're in favor of that, please press your yes button. Those opposing, the no button. If you wish to change your vote, now's the time to do it. Mrs. Anderson, would you record the vote, please?
22 yes.
Subtotal passes. And the total general, Nina?
Total county general fund, page 38, $96,896,683.
Dana?
Move for approval.
Proper motion and second on the total general funds. Questions? I see none. We're ready to vote on the total general fund of $96,896,683. If you're in agreement with that, push your yes button. If you're not, push your no button. Now's the time to change your vote if you would like to do that. Mrs. Anderson, would you record the vote?
22 yes.
The total general budget has been approved, 22-0. We'll go on and do the solid waste sanitation fund. Nina?
Would you like me to read those categories or just the total fund?
Just the total fund.
Total fund for solid waste sanitation is $5,914,787.
Dana?
Move for approval.
Proper motion and second. Questions on the solid waste sanitation fund? I see none. We're voting on $5,914,787. If you wish to agree with this, please press your yes button. Those opposed, the no button. If you wish to change your vote, now's the time to do it. Mrs. Anderson, would you record the vote for the solid waste?
22 yes.
Resolution passes. The next item we had is the Special Drug Control Fund. Nina?
On page 45, a total of $87,000.
Move for approval.
Proper motion and seconded for the Special Drug Control Fund. Questions? I see none. Ready to vote on the $87,000. All in favor, please push their yes button. Those opposed, the no button. Anyone wishing to change your vote, now's the time to do that. Mrs. Anderson, would you record the vote, please?
22 yes.
Thank you, ma'am. The next one is the Highway Public Works Fund. Nina?
Total on page 49 of $11,698,163.
Dana?
Move for approval.
Proper motion and seconded for the Highway Public Fund. Questions? Yes, ma'am, Commissioner?
When we see the negative 20% out there next to the total, does that mean it's a 20% less than speaking your mind? What does the
The
negative?
percentages were based on the proposed budget as a percentage of the revised. So I think the largest reduction was in that capital outlay section.
But some of these, so when some of these departments have a negative, that means we're spending less this year than last year? Or just less than the initial proposed budget?
The percentage is a percentage of the revised budget, not of the original budget from the previous year.
Okay.
Follow up?
No.
Okay. Other questions? Ready to vote on the Highway and Public Works Fund of $11,698,163. If you're in agreement with that, please push your yes button. Those opposed, the no button. Anyone wishing to change your vote, please do so at this time. Mrs. Anderson, waiting on one. It's okay. Mrs. Anderson?
22 yes.
Resolution passes. So let's jump down and do it while we've got Nina here. Let's get all of the county general out of the way. Jump down to your your general debt service fund, and then we'll start doing the schools. Nina?
That total is on page 52, $43,443,209.
Dana?
Move for approval?
Proper motion and seconded. Questions on the general debt service fund? I see none. We're ready to vote on the general debt service fund of $43,443,209. If you're in agreement with that, please push your yes button. If you disagree, the no button. Anyone wishing to change your vote, please do so at this time. Mrs. Anderson, would you please?
22 yes.
Thank you, ma'am. And the final item for Nina to address is under the rural service, debt service fund. Nina?
Total on page 55, $43,044,000.
Dana?
Move for approval?
Proper motion and seconded for the rural debt service fund. Questions? I see none. We're ready to vote on the rural debt service fund of $43,044,000. Mr. Ernie Williams would question that, wouldn't he? Anything that rounded off to an even number, he didn't believe it. Mrs. Anderson?
Got Mr. Green.
Wishing to vote, please vote yes. Those opposing, no.
Herbert.
Judy?
22 yes.
Thank you, ma'am. Nina, you'll come back up when we do the total.
Okay.
Dr. Looney or Leslie or Jason or...
Once again, thank you, Mr. Mayor, Commissioners. Before I present the budget, I would like to formally and publicly thank Mrs. Holman for the magnificent job she does to try to make all of this work. So, Leslie, thank you so much on behalf of the board and the community that we serve. We have a proposed budget for you on page 66, the general purpose school fund of $337,706,400.
That's it. Dana?
Move for approval?
Proper motion, second. Questions? Questions about the general purpose school fund? Ready to vote? Those wishing to vote yes, please push the yes button. Those no, the no button. Here's your time to change your vote if you so desire. Mrs. Anderson, would you
22 yes.
Thank you. Dr. Looney, thank you. And Leslie, thank you for the hard work you put in. Total general cafeteria fund, Dr. Looney.
Ladies and gentlemen, that's located on page 69. The school board is proposing a budget of $12,436,426. This is a self-sustaining fund.
Move for approval?
Proper motion and seconded. Questions for the cafeteria fund? See none, you're ready to vote on the total central cafeteria fund of $12,436,426. All in favor, please push your yes button. Those no, your no button. Anyone wishing to change your vote, now's the time to do it. Mrs. Anderson, you're
22 yes.
Thank you. Dr. Looney, the extended school program fund, please.
Thank you, sir. This is located on page 72. This, too, is a self-sustaining fund, $6,520,149.
Dana?
Move for approval?
Proper motion and seconded. Questions on the extended school program fund? I see none. If you are in favor of this number, please push of the $6,520,149. Please push your yes button. Those opposed, the no button. Now's the time to change your vote on anyone wishing to change. Mrs. Anderson, would you record the vote, please?
22 yes.
Proper. Dr. Looney, thank you. Nina? give us the grand total, what it's going to be in Williamson County this year.
Total county budgets for the upcoming fiscal year is $557,746,817.
Dana?
Move for approval.
Questions? I see none. You ready to vote on the total county budget for all funds in Williamson County of $557,746,817? If you are in favor of that, please push your yes button. Those opposed, the no button. Here's your chance to change your vote. No one. Mrs. Anderson?
22 yes.
The resolution, back to the main resolution, up on the floor. The mower is on the floor. Any questions at all before we vote on the resolution 7-17-3? We're ready to vote. No questions on 7-17-3. If you're in favor of the total budget as being presented, please push the yes button. Those opposed, the no button. Anyone wishing to change their vote, please do so at this time. Mrs. Anderson.
22 yes.
Resolution 7-17-4 has been presented, has been approved, 22-0. Thank you,
Thank you.
Nina. Moving on to the rest of the resolutions in our packet this morning. The next thing, when we do the budget, we have to set the tax rate. So Resolution 7-17-4, resolution fixing the tax levy in Williamson County for the fiscal year beginning July the 1st, 2017. Commissioner Osbrook.
Move for approval.
Second.
Proper motion is second by Commissioner Jones. Committee reports, please.
3-4-0 against.
Explanation.
This is, as you stated, setting our tax rate. If you'll notice, it is the same total of $2.15, same tax rate we have currently.
Questions? I see none. We're ready to vote on 7-17-4. If you're in favor of the tax rate, which was the same as last year, of $2.15, please push your yes button. Those opposed, the no button. Anyone wishing to change your vote, please do so at this time. Mrs. Anderson, would you record the vote?
22 yes.
Resolution 7-17-4 passes unanimously. 7-17-5, resolution making appropriation to nonprofit charitable organization of Williamson County, Tennessee for the fiscal year beginning July 1st, 2017 and ending June 30th, 2018. Commissioner Osbrook.
Move for approval.
Proper motion and seconded. Committee reports, budget.
3-4-0 against.
Thank you. Questions?
This is the nonprofit charitable organizations. Just so everyone knows, this does follow guidelines. No additional nonprofits were added this year.
Thank you. We have one typo we're going to fix on your second page, item number 1, where it says section 5-9-102. That should read 109. That's a typo. We'll correct that. Got a question from Commissioner Ford.
Chairman, I believe I noticed, if I'm correct, that this is the resolution that typically had the economic development going into the Chamber of Commerce, and that's not in there this year. Is that in another place of the budget, or are we not funding that at this point?
Nina will give you the answer for that.
Thank you.
Yes, sir, it is on page 37 of your budget this year. It falls under contracted services, as they have performance guidelines that they have to present to us.
And is it the same amount as in previous years?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Good question. Thank you, Commissioner Ford. Other questions? I see none. You ready to vote on 7-17-5? All in favor, push the yes button. Those opposed, the no button. If you wish to change your vote, please do so at this time. Mrs. Anderson, would you record the vote on
yes.
22 yes? Resolution 717-5 passes unanimously. Resolution 717-6, resolution making appropriation to nonprofit emergency service organizations of Williamson County, Tennessee for the fiscal year beginning July 1, 17 and ending June 30th, 2018. Commissioner Osborne.
Move for approval.
Proper motion and seconded. Committee reports, please.
Budget Committee 340 against.
Explanation, ma'am.
Yes, this resolution is the appropriations for our volunteer fire departments throughout the county.
Thank you. Questions? I see none. You're ready to vote on 717-6 for our nonprofit emergency services throughout Williamson County. Those wishing to vote for this, please push their yes button. Those opposed, the no button. Anyone wishing to change your vote, please do so at this time. Mrs. Anderson, would you record the vote?
22 yes.
Resolution 717-6 passes unanimously. Resolution 717-7, resolution appropriating $1,657,397 in the general purpose school fund for raises authorized by the Williamson County Budget Committee for 17-18. Commissioner Osberg? No.
Herbert.
Excuse me, Commissioner Herbert. Thank you. Sorry. Do I have a second? Commissioner Jones. Committee reports. School Board was unanimous. Education Committee?
440 against.
And Budget Committee?
340 against.
Explanation, Ms. Herbert.
This is the 2% raise for the school employees that were not included in the state raises, and it is not in the budget that we just approved.
Thank you, ma'am. Questions? Commissioner Lawrence.
Thank you, Mayor.
Slide your mic over just a little.
I don't know if this is a question for you or Dr. Looney, but what benchmark are we using to come up with this number? Are we using a benchmark? I mean, I know last year was 4%, year before that was 5%, this year it's 2%. How do we know that's the right number? How do we know shouldn't be 3, 4, 1? What are we using some type of benchmark for this number?
Sure. If I can get Mike Weber make his way up here, kind of talk a little bit about the theory that we use. There's also, why he's making his way up, Greg, that we have a sense from each of you commissioners what you will approve and won't approve.
Okay.
Some of it's political.
That's the algorithm.
He can't say that. That's the algorithm. Yeah, that's right. But Mike does quite a bit of research on that.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Essentially, a lot of it was just said is what we can or cannot approve. Generally, I'll look at what cost of living are. I'll have a sense of what others are offering in that. And then we sort of meld all of that together to come up with a total that we feel can meet the budgetary requirements and still provide our employees a raise or an increase, at least for the cost of living and the cost of things that are going up. You're right, we've had a 5 and a 4, and we've gone to a 2% this year. Our average salary is around 40, low 40s, our median salary for county general employees right now. So we're still significantly below the average salaries for Williamson County workers in that, but we think we can balance a little bit with benefit packages, et cetera, to balance that out. But essentially, I think we were looking at 2.2 to 2.4 cost of living nationwide, and that changes monthly. And then, you know, what others are offering at this point. And then, of course, as the mayor say, what we think we can get through the budget.
Follow up?
No, thank you.
Commissioner, who we got next? Commissioner Sturgeon?
Thank you, Mayor. I see it reads that a raise for all county employees was approved by the Budget Committee, and this is just the portion that would be schools, correct? So I'm wondering what's the portion for all the other county employees? How much money is that raise? equivalent to?
If I can answer from the chair, I'll get Nina up. I don't know that she may take her a second to dig it out. It is built into the budget. The reason you see it this way is that, if I can, is that okay with everyone? That under the Board of Education, if we had built in the $1,657,397 into the school budget, we would have had to have a tax increase to make that work. By taking it out of their fund balance, we don't have to have that tax increase. We built ours in the county general, but they, as Dr. Looney said earlier, they do their budget, pretty much have it out of the way. They present it to us in February, March, somewhere along there. They did not build in a tax increase for the employees. Not that they didn't, not that they didn't want a tax increase for them, but they also got some money from the, not a tax increase, a pay raise for their employees. So this is the way that they can have the 2%. We're not giving what the state gave, and then on top of that a 2%, we're saying everyone gets the 2%, so you kind of blend it. But they just couldn't afford it. This was one of the ways we did it. But to answer your specific question, what does it cost for county general? She'll have to dig out the highway, the solid waste, and the county general to give you those numbers.
And I'm sorry I did not bring the form where I have the benefits added on to that, but I can give you the pay increase amount for the county general fund was $935,787. For the landfill, it's $36,642. And highway, it was $76,550. Then we would need to add the benefits on those totals.
Follow up?
Yeah, benefits is usually a approximate percent. What is it, like 30% more?
It's around 25, I think, if you add in the insurance and everything. But you're right, it's your FICA, Medicare, retirement, and then our insurance.
So the county commission doesn't need to approve that, is what you're saying. When we approve the budget, we're approving the raise, but we don't specifically approve the raise normally. It's normally just built in. But we pulled it out this year because we didn't want it to.
No, ma'am. When you approve the budget, built into the budget, like we've always done, is the pay raise. But that goes through the budget committee, the education committee, all the different committees to get to this point. So you approve the budget, which has the 2%. The school portion, the $1,006,000 you're voting on, is for them to have their 2%.
Right. And what I'm saying is if we didn't approve this, I'm not saying that we won't, but if we didn't, then the school employees would not get a raise, but everybody else would.
That's except for the STEP program.
Okay.
Correct.
Okay. Thank you. Now I understand.
Where am I at? Commissioner Jones.
Since I'm a part of the second whereas, I'll be abstaining.
Thank you. Commissioner Kestner.
Yeah, I think Commissioner Sturgeon has already discussed what I was going to mention. I think the teacher role is already in the budget, and I think that's about $2.5 million a year, which, by the way, is about 1% of our tax base, if you think of it that way, of what they get. So, yeah, this just does match out with the other county employees, so I'm for it.
Commissioner Milligan.
Thank you. We've made a lot of progress in the past 2 years with the 5% and 4% increase for our teachers. This year, because of obvious reasons, we weren't able to go as high as we were to start closing the gap to other counties. We're going to be hit with the double whammy with building more schools and having to hire more teachers. To continue to hire the quality teachers we need to be thoughtful and mindful in next year's budget to continue to close that gap. And I would just put that on all of us to be, from now on, to be thoughtful of that as we go forward so we continue to give our children the best teachers possible. Thanks.
Thank you. Other questions or comments?
Ready to vote on 717? Judy, did you have a comment?
Mm-mm.
Oh. I've got too many voices talking to you up here. But they're all good voices.
Oh.
All right, ready to vote on 717-7 on 1,657,397. All those in favor push the yes button. Those opposed the no button. Now's the time to change your vote. Mrs. Anderson, would you record the vote, please?
20 yes.
Resolution passes 20 with 2 abstentions. Resolution 717-8, resolution of the Williamson County Board of County Commissioners of approval to intend to fund up to $6,090,000 to finish construction for an elementary school on Split Log Road. Commissioner Herbert.
Move for approval.
Proper motion and seconded by Commissioner Little. Committee reports, please. School board was unanimous. 12-0. Education Committee, Commissioner Herbert.
4-0 against.
Budget Committee.
3-4-0 against.
Explanation, Ms. Herbert.
This is where the new school that they're building on Split Log Road has gone over the construction cost of $6,090,000. I think Dr. Looney's already spoke about this.
Thank you. Questions to Commissioner Herbert or to Dr. Looney? I don't see any. Ready to vote on 717-8, $6,090,000 to fund the remaining of the school on Split Log Road. If you're in favor of that, push the yes button. If you're not, push the no button. Anyone wishing to change a vote, please do so at this time. Mrs. Anderson, would you record the vote?
22 yes. Resolution
passes 22-0. 717-9, a resolution approving a county K-8 school green community program, authorizing the issuance of not to exceed $4,870,000 in an aggregate principal amount of one or more series of qualified energy conservation bonds in the form of federally taxable county district school bonds, making provisions for the issuance, the sale, and the payment of said bonds, establishing the terms thereof and the disposition of proceeds therefrom, and providing for the levy of taxes for the payment of principal of premium, if any, and interest on the bonds. Commissioner Herbert. Excuse me. Well, you can make it. How about me a second, Commissioner Osbrook?
Second.
There you go. Committee reports, please. Education. Budget.
3-4-0 against.
Explanation. You want Commissioner Osbrook? You want to handle it, Judy?
Either one.
Do it.
Okay, this is for the energy bonds for the K-8 schools. We had already approved these for $10 million. It's to save money on the utilities, and the school will pay for it out of their budget.
Thank you. Questions? Commissioner Ryan, you just came in. You'll need to sign that form. I'll hold up here a little bit. Questions? Commissioner Lawrence?
Thank you, Mayor. I just have a question on Section 2. What does that mean where it says that the sum of the principal of the notes together with the principal amounts or amounts prior tax anticipation notes during the fiscal year does not exceed 60% of the fund appropriation for the fiscal year? If you add that up to the other funds that we're already, the other bonds that we're already funding, that it seems to me it'd be more than 60%. So I'm just asking, what does that mean?
I don't have a clue. Who we got here that gonna? Jason, you want to take a run at this? You look like one we need to pick on.
Sorry, Jason.
Or Sammy here? Nina, you want to make a run at it? State your question again.
Well, I'm just asking about Section 2 because it says it can't exceed more than 60% of the fund appropriated for the fiscal year, but it also says that you're adding together with the principal amounts or amounts of any prior tax notes. So that seems to me to mean all the other bonds that we've got you know, to pay on. So I'm just asking why it's worded that way.
Where are you at?
Section 2,
Yeah.
Section 2, right?
Can I come up?
Which section?
Am I in the wrong one?
You're ahead of us, I think. You're ahead. Are you ahead of us?
He's on 13.
I'm on 13.
That doesn't count.
Oh, I'm so sorry, man. Can I hold my question for next? Gives you more time to get.
You were stumping us all. Can
I'm
we go
sorry.
back to this resolution now? We all right?
Yeah, I'm sorry.
That's
Yeah, go
all
ahead.
right. Nina?
Okay.
Commissioner Kestner?
Yeah, one question, and this may relate to Nina. You know, these are energy savings investments, right? I mean, we're gonna use bond proceeds, and we're gonna do things like put in LED lighting systems or fancy HVAC systems or whatever. Who is gonna underwrite, who is gonna analyze on the part of the county or the part of the schools as to whether each and every one of these little pieces or little projects makes sense and has a decent rate of return? Because what I don't want to have happen is some vendor look at this as like their free lunch, and they just go do all this stuff without, you know, but because utility rates change and, you know, payback periods change, and so somebody needs to be looking at these on a project by project basis. And so
That's a Dr. Looney question.
that's fine. I knew it was one of them.
Actually, probably better off with Mr. Golden, but the big picture is the reference that we're using is the meter. And so it's consumption
right
at the meter. And so we will verify through the billing cycles that we have that we've received a reduction in
In kilowatt hours, right. Okay, so, but when you go into it, you're going to go into each one of these with an idea that it's going to cost some amount of money, and your payback period is going to be some short, attractive period of time, or your savings yield will be above 12% or something. I mean, you've got to have some
Yes,
sort of
so
financial analysis.
So to be honest with you, we're bundling projects.
Right.
We're bundling projects. LED lighting, as an example, has a very short payback period.
Right.
But if
Right.
we need an HVAC system and it's on its last leg of life, the payback period on it might be 17 years. So you bundle them together and maximize the benefits of both.
You just don't want, right, I just want somebody to be looking at making sure that we're not doing some things that are dumb things that are covered up by the good things that we're doing, right? Because if we have an HVAC system on its last legs, we're going to have to fix that anyway, right? So just somebody's going to look at it project by project, component by component in your department. And
Yes,
make
sir,
sure
we're going to do
getting
that.
good.
Although I have been accused of doing dumb things in the past.
Me too. Me too.
Commissioner Pear? You're finished? Any other questions? Ready to vote on 717-9? If you're in favor of 717-9, please push your yes button. Those opposed, the no button. Anyone wishing to change your vote, please do so at this time. Mrs. Anderson, would you record the vote?
23 yes.
Resolution
Zero no.
passes 23-0. Resolution 71710. This is for our rural side. A resolution approving a county high school green community program authorizing the issuance of not to exceed $5,330,000 in the aggregate principal amount of one or more series of qualified energy conservation bonds in the form of a federally taxable general obligation school bond, making provisions for the issuance, sale, and payment of said bonds, establishing the terms thereof, and the disposition of proceeds therefrom, and providing for the levy of taxes for the payment of principal of premium, if any, and interest on the bonds. Commissioner Osbert.
Move for approval.
Proper motion and second. Committee reports. Education Committee, please. School Board. Education.
4-0 against.
School Board was unanimous. Budget Committee.
3-4-0 against.
Thank you. Explanation, Commissioner.
This is the same resolution, except this is approving County High School's Green Community Program.
Questions? I see none. We ready to vote? 71710. All in favor, push the yes button. Those opposed, the no button. Anyone wishing to change the vote, please do so at this time. Commissioner Sturgeon. Mrs. Anderson, would you record the vote, please?
23 yes, 0 no.
Thank you. Resolution passes 23-0. Moving on, 71711. Resolution appropriating $5,500,000 for adequate school facility privilege tax funds and approving relating operating transfers for the 17-18 County General Service. Excuse me. Commissioner Osbrooks.
Move for approval.
Proper motion and second. Committee reports budgets. The only one it went to.
3-4-0 against.
Explanation.
Yes, this is appropriating for the adequate school facility privilege tax and approving those operating transfers for 2017-18.
Do it every year. We're taking money out of adequate school facility, paying for the debt service. Questions? See none. You ready to vote? 71711. All in favor signify by pushing the yes button. Those opposed, the no button. Anyone wishing to change your vote, please do so at this time. Mrs. Anderson, would you record the vote?
23 yes, 0 no.
Resolution passes unanimously. Moving on, 71712, resolution appropriating $6,200,000 education privilege tax funds and approving related operating transfers for the 17-18 rural debt service. Commissioner Osbrooks.
Move for approval.
Proper motion second. The only committee it went to was the budget committee.
3-4-0 against.
And an explanation, please.
Same thing we did in the last resolution, except this is moving privilege tax funds for rural debt service.
We do it every year. Questions? Ready to vote on 71712. Everyone in agreement with this, push their yes button. Those opposed, the no button. Anyone wishing to change your vote at this time, please do so. Mrs. Anderson, would you record the vote?
23 yes, 0 no.
Resolution passes unanimously on 71712. Moving on, 71713, resolution of the governing body of Williamson County, Tennessee, authorizing the issuance, sale, and payment of interest-bearing 2017-18 general purpose school fund tax anticipation note not to exceed $25 million. Commissioner Osborne.
Move for approval.
Proper motion and second. Committee went to was the budget. Vote and an explanation, please.
3-4-0 against, and this is authorizing issuance, sale, and payment, interest-bearing general purpose funds for 2017-18, not to exceed $25 million.
Questions? Just your question? You're going to ask your question now.
I'm asking about Section 2, where it says that the amount shall not exceed 60% of the fund appropriation for the fiscal year. But it also says it's adding together with the principal amounts or amounts of any prior tax anticipation notes. So it appears, I mean, it seems to me, what is that? Does that mean all the notes from last year plus this year, or?
I'll give you my layman's version.
Oh, you want Jeff to try to do it on a legal term?
Because I'm not sure about the legal term.
I had that in the last meeting. I was sitting between two lawyers. And that gave me a headache.
All right.
The tax anticipation note, these have to be paid off by June 30. This is where we borrow funds for the school's operations until their property taxes start coming in.
Oh, okay.
So this will help them with their operations budget for the first 6 months until your property taxes start coming in. So each year we do have to have these paid off by June 30.
Okay, all right.
We did last year, Commissioner, if you remember. I think we did 20 million. Is that right, Leslie?
It's around.
Okay, that answers my question then. Thank you.
The 60% is of the $337 million for the fund appropriation.
Oh, the total of the budget,
Correct.
the total budget. Okay, all right.
Other questions on 717? Commissioner Ryan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Nina, one last question for you, if I may. I'm sorry, I know you just sat down. Just out of curiosity, I know we do this every year, but just out of curiosity, what do we anticipate to pay in terms of interest on that?
I think
just a
our
ballpark?
last one was 0.5%.
Okay, so that would equate out to a little over $1 million, or no? What would that equate to? 100,000?
Approximately.
Ballpark? Okay, thank you.
Follow up?
No, sir, thank you.
More questions? You ready to vote on the anticipation note of $25 million, 7/17/13? If you're in favor of this, push your yes button. If you're not, push the no button. Anyone wishing to change your vote, now's the time to do it. Mrs. Anderson, would you record that vote, please?
23 yes, 0 no.
Thank you. Resolution passes unanimously. Moving on, 1714, resolution of intent to fund the capital projects needs in the amount of $11,012,896 for the Williamson County Board of Education. Commissioner Herbert.
Move for approval.
Proper motion and second. Committee reports. Board of Ed was 12-0. Education Committee.
5-4, 2 against, as amended. It was amended to $8 million.
And the Budget Committee.
3-4, 2 against. It was not amended.
Thank you. Explanation, Commissioner Herbert.
This is to fund the capital projects for the school for the maintenance and technology departments. Commissioner Kestner, I think, is one that amended it in our education budget. Do you want to amend it here?
Yeah, I think that was, I took it back up. It got cut. It was amended down below, and I brought it back up to 8. So I would move that we amend this budget of $11,012,896 down to $8 million even.
That's a proper motion on the amendment. Do I have a second?
Second.
Have a second on Commissioner Clark. Discussion? Any more comments? Your amendment is offering from 11 million approximately down to 8 million flat.
The first suggested amendment was to take it down to 5, and I thought that was pretty extreme, and obviously we're just picking numbers here.
All right. Questions on the amendment only? She's loading it up. Commissioner Milligan.
This would be for the maker of the amendment. Commissioner Kestner, if you could just tell us what the purpose of lowering it to 8 million is.
Well, as I've already said twice, I was bringing it up from what was suggested to be 5. As I said, we're picking numbers here.
I think the question, I'll go through the chair for this, for discussion is why 8 million instead of 5 or 11? Why is that number too high? Just put it out there for debate.
Commissioner Milligan's asked if anybody else would like to speak from taking it from 11 to 8 or why we chose 11 or 8. Is that what I hear you asking?
And we could also ask Dr. Looney perhaps if he could live with 8.
Dr. Looney, question was asked, could you live with 8?
Please don't do that. Y'all, we have 6 million square feet of building. We've got to maintain them. If you cut $3 million out of this, it's going to cost you $5 next year. Please don't cut this. These are mission critical items that we need to do our work, to remain the highest performing school district as far as I'm concerned in America. And so I'm just asking you, please don't cut this. Let's don't nickel and dime the maintenance and operational budget. This is what the money that we operate to maintain the buildings that you've given us. So my response is no.
Thank you. Commissioner Ryan.
Dr. Looney, if I may, while you're up, I'm certainly in agreement with you in terms of maintenance on capital, but in terms of the technology, can you provide a little insight in terms of what we're maintaining there?
Yes, sir. There's been a lot of discussion. Thank you for the opportunity to speak to this. There's been a lot of discussion about projectors. In fact, most of the discussions I've had with you about this topic has been about the projectors. So in our classrooms, we use projectors like the ones hanging in this auditorium. The problem with those projectors is the bulbs only have a certain life expectancy. The machines have a certain life expectancy. They're ending the term of their life expectancy. And so while the projectors will technically come on, the students can't read the content on the board from the projector. And so we are a technology-based society. Our school board has just saved $3 million for textbooks with the understanding that we're going to be teaching kids using the technology that we have in the buildings. We're not buying textbooks next year. We're not buying science textbooks. We're going to be using technology. But we can't do that if the technology doesn't work. So it's just the cost of doing business. It's like me deciding to own a car. I have to change the oil. I have to get new tires when it's required. I have to do maintenance on it. And this is the exact same thing. We're maintaining, we're not adding bells and whistles, we're maintaining the facilities that we have.
Follow up, Mr. Chair, if I may.
Yes.
And so, Dr. Looney, if I understand you correctly, then the majority of this cost is light bulbs and projectors for technology. Because the concern that I've got with the
If you give me a moment, you ask the question. I'm going to answer your question.
Yes, sir. And if I may, while you're looking that up, the concern that I've got is it's kind of a snowball effect with us putting this on bonds to pay for short-term technology.
So, well, I can't speak to your funding mechanism, but I understand that you front load the bonds of these short life expectancy items. The total technology budget is $5,449,000. That includes classroom projector replacements, which would be the ones that I just described. It includes additional replacement computers for teachers and students. The highest expense item on this list is the additional computers for students, which is $1.6 million.
And how long is the life expectancy of those computers?
Typically 6 years, but we've been going 7 and 8.
How long is this bond for?
Once again, I don't do the bonds. I have to come to you with the request. I don't know how long the bonds are for.
Mr. Mayor.
So typically what we do on items such as Dr. Looney and you all have instructed us to do over the last several years, try to structure that bond where those items that only have a lifespan of 5 and 6 years, we front load those on the bond side, so you're really borrowing the money but paying off those items on the front side of that bond. Now, without this being approved, and we haven't rolled up our sleeves and gone to work and see, but we will visit with Dr. Looney and his staff when they know all of us put these together, put those items that just don't have a long life, we get those paid off in the early days.
So understanding that it's front loaded, but the entire or the entire bond, is it still 20 years?
It's still 20 years.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Dr. Looney.
Yes, sir.
Bobby?
Chair. To tag on to Commissioner Milligan's comment as well, and Dr. Looney said exactly what I would have said at the beginning of that, is from prior experience, the school board brings the lien request to this, and we can't just pick a card, any card, and just arbitrarily cut money just to say that we've cut money. The truth of the matter is, and from years of being on the school board, when something does malfunction because we did not, as a commission, talking on the county commission side, did not fund the maintenance request or the technology request ahead of time, you do pay through the nose with on-demand service. One of the factors that keeps us the highest performing, highest achieving school system in the state, and the reason why a lot of folks want to come here, is because our teachers and our students have the resources that we need, not only from a technology standpoint, but also from a maintenance standpoint, to keep the buildings in great shape so that they enjoy coming to school and that they can come to school and that you don't have roofs cave in or parking lots being torn up or things like that. So I can't support the amendment to cut the budget.
Commissioner Lawrence?
Thank you, Mayor. Most of my questions you just answered. I did want to ask, though, if we did go to 11 million, I guess was the 11 million a part of the original budget? So what we voted on earlier, we wouldn't have to go back and revise that. So we can't do that, basically. So,
well, this is a capital request, and this is how you're setting up your rule in general debt. If you decide to, on the amendment that has been made, the 8 million, we would bring that number down.
Okay.
But what's got
has been funded.
It has.
Right.
We've anticipated this. It has not been funded yet, but we've anticipated. Okay. Commissioner Danner.
Thank you. So just so I understand, this amended amount did pass Education Committee? Okay. That's what I just wasn't sure.
Thank you. Follow up?
No.
Okay. Commissioner? me do a follow-up to her question, and I'll get Commissioner Sturgeon. Go ahead.
I found the submission of the 11 million from the Education Committee meeting, and assuming it's still intact, it is the same exact dollar amount, so I think it is. The technology total was 5,449,000, of which 4,760,000 was classroom student computers and projectors, and then there's 5,563,000 that is building maintenance. And so the view of the Education Committee was that number would come out of the technology. We're not suggesting cutting the building maintenance, but again, these are just point-in-time numbers. So, but the 11 million is 5.5 of technology and 5.5 of building maintenance.
Thank you. Commissioner Sturgeon on the amendment.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that I think what Dr. Looney said is very true, that if you don't spend it now, it's going to cost us more later. That's just the nature of maintenance. And so I'm going to be voting not to amend it because I think it's unwise to cut our maintenance any tighter than it's already been.
Thank you. Other comments? Commissioner Herbert?
I'd punched my button earlier. I guess you skipped me. I'm going to confess, I'm the one that asked for it to be amended down to it wasn't 5 million, it was 6 million. And it goes back to you've only got so much money. And sure, we want to have the best of everything, but then nobody wants to raise taxes. You can't have it both ways. You know, if you want to vote for all this, then be prepared to tell the taxpayers, guess what, I'm going to raise your taxes. You cannot continue to fund everything and tax rate stays the same. And I understand about the maintenance, but you've got to cut somewhere.
Other comments? We're voting on the amendment. It's been loaded. Sure, Commissioner.
I would just like to add that it's not always do this or raise taxes. There are other options where we can consider selling county assets. And I think sometimes we don't give that enough attention. Thank you.
Other comments? I see none on the board. You ready, ladies, to throw it up on the machine? We have got it on the amendment. Excuse me, we've got another comment came in. Commissioner Milligan.
Sorry to do this to you guys again. Just a real-world example of what it looks like when you cut the technology portion. We talked about the maintenance, but when you cut the technology portion, let me give you an anecdote.
Pull your mic down a little bit.
Let me give you an anecdote from the past few years. My children attend Allendale Elementary School. Each of them has a projector in the room. When my daughter was in first grade, she needed a light bulb repaired. In that year, we had cut the technology budget like we did this year. It took her a month to get a new bulb in that classroom. Last year, in her second grade classroom, needed a new bulb replaced. Took a month to get that done because of the way we've cut the budget. As we are moving to technology-based services, our teachers cannot afford to wait a month to teach out of their materials. There are places we need to cut. This isn't one of them because this directly, not indirectly, directly affects the quality education our students receive. And when you vote to cut the technology portion, you say to our teachers, you say to our students, we don't believe in funding this part of your quality education. And I don't think we're doing our county, our constituents, our students, our teachers, anybody a favor by doing that.
Commissioner Danner?
Did we receive any money from the Education Foundation this year? I know that I thought that one of their missions was to help fund technology.
Ms. Holman? Question is, get any from the Educational Foundation?
I can tell you in total, since they've been in operation, it's been about 64 million. I mean, 64,000. Lord Hannah, 64,000. But I can't tell you much. I do have that, but it's upstairs. I've got it in my.
Do you get anything this year towards technology?
Yeah, not towards the technology. I think we might have gotten $7,500 specifically for that, but other money from them this year for other things.
Okay. So that could be an opportunity in the future. So that doesn't sound like it's really
geared
up as high as it could be or as it should be. And if people wanted to give more, they could give to that foundation. And if the foundation chose to do technology, that could be a way of funding technology.
Exactly. I didn't include in that amount when we had our what was it, ladders to hose?
Yeah, that's why it made me think
That was
technology.
about, that was the mechanism that, and they collected for us about 300,000 back then, but totally just the other dollars that came in from the Education Foundation for other things, it's 60, right at 64,000 in, okay.
Other questions? We ready to vote on the amendment, bringing it down from $11,012,896 to $8 million. If you're in favor of the amendment, push your yes button. If you're not, push your no button. Anyone wishing to change your vote, please do so at this time. Mrs. Anderson, would you record the vote?
6 yes, 17 no.
Amendment fails. We're back to the main motion on 7/17/14 at $11,012,896. Discussion. Ready to vote? 7/17/14, $11,012,896. If you're in favor, push your yes button. If you're not, push your no button. Those wishing to change your vote, please do so at this time. Mrs. Anderson?
21 yes, 2 no.
Resolution passes. 7/17/15, resolution of the intent to fund certain county capital projects totaling $20,181,530 in an 2017-18 bond or note issuance. Commissioner Osbrook.
Move for approval.
Proper motion and seconded. Committee reports. This only went to the Budget Committee.
Budget 340 against.
Explanation, please, ma'am.
Yes, this is the capital request and solid waste request, and either a bond or a note issue to fund the projects would be issued.
Thank you. Questions? Commissioner Herbert?
Yeah, I have, there is a request in here for the archives for over $2 million. What is that for?
Is Nina?
Under property management.
It's for a new record storage facility. The new facility would meet the state requirements for humidity and other specific storage that you have for particular items.
So is that for like the court records and things? Is that what
It's
you're talking
all
about?
county records, but yes, courts are included in that.
Where's it going to be located at?
It is directly across from the, you know where Academy Sports Gym is? We own some property down there. There's a garden on that now.
Yeah.
And it'd strictly be for records.
So you're actually building a building?
Having to build a building for this.
Okay.
We've temporarily been at Beasley, but we're starting to have issues there with molding and silverfish and things like that.
All right. Thank you.
Other questions? Ready to vote? Okay, Commissioner Danner?
Just trying to track the debt. The net debt you said at the beginning was 548,714. What will it be if we approve all of the bonds that are in this today? After today is over, if we approved everything, what does that do to our debt?
I think when I added all this together, it comes to around what we've already approved, and these, it would be around 80 million. Now, right.
Okay.
But all that we have discussed today and approved up to this point, we have discussed in all of those workshops.
Yeah.
So, and I think you've attended those, so you're aware of those discussions.
Other questions?
All right. So that'll put us over 600, 628 million. Our net debt, okay.
I'll just agree because, you know, we had discussed when we borrow those monies, we're going to have to do interest only or other items to be able to work this out over the next 2 to 3 years. So,
okay.
Commissioner Kestner?
I would just like folks to note that in the sheriff's field department, there's one FLIR unit, that's an infrared camera, for $150,000 for our free helicopters that don't cost us anything.
Other questions? You ready to vote? No? Got another one? Commissioner Milligan?
Judge Guppy, I see you here today. Could you tell us about the juvenile facility study that you guys are about to begin once we pass this resolution?
I'm not sure what you're asking, Commissioner.
The juvenile services facility study. Could you tell us about that? It's earmarked at $350,000. It's earmarked at $350,000. Sorry to put you on the spot.
Can I answer that and get her off the hot
Yes.
seat? So over the last several months, we have a working group. We've affectionately called it the JJJ Task Force. Juvenile and jails and judges. And there's a committee that has been formed, and we have, as of last week, we have visited the jails, the juvenile, and our historical and judicial center that we have in downtown. Each one of those journeys has allowed us, and we would encourage you, and you'll have that opportunity, to go and see each of these facilities and the lack of space that we have for our centers. The latest one was Judge Guffey, and her staff had put together a presentation that desperately, along with need for space. And the question is, how do we pay for all these? The very things that we discuss all over this body as our community continues to grow. Once we have finished the task force and of our looking at making assessments, then we will have to get into that side of actually having someone that's professional in that area come in and help us draft proposals. There's some in the group that feel it ought to be one central location. There's some in the group that want to take what we have and modify it to some degree, particularly the judicial system. We have citizens serving on this. We have professionals sitting on this. So once we've accumulated all that, we've got to hire somebody as a consultant to put all this information together so that we can come back here. And this appropriation of money you're seeing here is hopefully to pay for that architecture firm that will allow us to do it. Is it enough money? We made some phone calls. We got some ideas. We feel like it is, but we really don't know. We're fortunate in that CTAS, County Technical Services, always what is it? Assistance. Has got some professionals that they provide to the University of Tennessee in the areas of jails and somewhat into the area of Judge Guffey's area. But as you would think, when you start off on any journey like this, everyone's got their own areas of concern and what they want. We've had success with this model many times over the last several years. I'll let you know how this one works out as we get further down the road. But so far, it's convinced me that we've got a real challenge ahead of us. The sheriff, who's not here to speak to this, has been present along with Dusty in every meeting. Our jail is probably reaching its maximum threshold. 3 years, 4 years, 5 years on the outside. The problem we're having with all of these groups is nobody really wants a jail in their community. our judicial side, they want to remain and stay downtown for the viability of our businesses down there. And Judge Guffey, it's kind of pitiful what she's got over there and having to live with. But she's making the best of it. All of them are making the best of it, just like we went through with so many of our other departments. And I suspect over the next year to 18 months, you're going to be seeing some of these proposals come to our different committees. You're certainly welcome to attend, but the reason you're not being involved in them at this point is we get 2 or more, then sometimes we can't have those open discussions that we need to have. But they'll be here.
Thank you. I appreciate that. This is much needed. There's questions and implications, and great job, Judge Guppy. Thank you. I appreciate that.
I should also say that we're looking at animal control. We're looking at what's Miss Anderson's area going to do? Where's the election commission going to be? When you're growing 20 and 25 and 30% of a population, I don't have to tell you there's almost no department that's not affected, including schools. We just happen to concentrate so much on our schools. But the election commission, if you haven't been down there lately, there's 6 or 8 desks just stacked up. There's not an arm's distance apart, and I'm very appreciative of what Chad does to maintain that. But we've got some real challenges as we go down the road. Thanks for letting me talk about it. Other questions? Commissioner Sturgeon.
Yeah, I was really excited when I heard this task force was put together, and I would love to come to some of the meetings if that's allowed, and if so, how do we get notification?
Well, until we get through the task force, you're welcome to come, but if we have 2 or more, I promise you the conversation doesn't carry on as strong when we have 2 elected officials in a room.
Maybe you could videotape it and I could just watch it.
I'll let legal counsel tell me that. There are some things about politics when you get 2 or more elected people in a group that the conversation doesn't flow as freely. Mr. Ryan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Question, and I'm assuming that this may go to the chair, it may go to Nina, but in terms of lumping all of these projects together under one big resolution as far as funding, is there a way that we could possibly take out particular items? Again, to be consistent, I have an issue with putting IT items on long-term bonds, and so there's a lot of very good things that need to be done here, roof replacements and other capital improvements that need to be done. But in terms of being able to fund IT over 20 years is a concern that I have. So we don't normally lump all these together in one mass resolution, do we?
Nina?
We do. I don't know that I've given you, I've tried to give you as much detail as possible in the past. I did detail these a little bit more this year. The IT portions that I put for a bond or note are longer life assets. The next 2 resolutions, we will be taking a little over $3.5 million out of the county general fund balance. The majority of the IT is coming out of fund balance. But these are portions that have a bit longer life. So it did not give me heartburn to include these in the bond issue.
Understood.
Trying to be a little bit more transparent.
No, and that's what I was going to say. I do very much appreciate the transparency. That helps enormously. Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Osberg.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I did want to follow back up on the FLIR unit under the Sheriff's Department. Budget Committee vetted all of these, and that was one of the topics, but I wanted to be clear about a couple of uses for that. While it is under the aviation unit, SWAT could use it as well. It would be officer safety, because what this is a thermal imaging unit, so that if someone has barricaded themselves into a building, SWAT would be able to see that, see where they are. so that we don't have a suicide by cop situation. In addition, if $150,000 saves one small child or one of our elderly members of our community with dementia or Alzheimer's, it's money well spent. So I did want to follow back up with that.
Commissioner Milligan, excuse me.
I'll waive my question.
Other comments? Ready to vote? 7-17-15, intent to fund. If you're in favor, push your yes button. If you're not, push the no button. Anyone wishing to change your vote, this is the time to do it. Mrs. Anderson, would you record the vote?
22 yes.
And one no?
And one no.
Thank you, ma'am. Resolution passes. 7-17-15 has passed. It is 11:20. We got time to knock some more out if you want to. All right, well, here we go. 7-17-16. Resolution appropriating amending the 2017-18 capital projects budget by $2,527,387 and approving the related operating transfers, revenues to come from reserve, the county government capital projects. Commissioner Osborne.
Move for approval.
Proper motion is second. Committee report and then an explanation, ma'am.
Budget Committee 3-4-0 against, and this is amending our capital projects budget, approving the operating transfers, and as stated, revenues would come from reserve for capital projects.
We got the money. Let's spend some of it on the project without bonding it out. Questions? Commissioner Danner.
I'm just wondering, and I so appreciate that we are spending some of our cash on the technology for the county, but I'm curious to know what the threshold is. Like, how much more could we have taken out of the general fund and applied it to that $20 million bond that we just voted on? I'm wondering what's our threshold for how far we can dip into the general fund?
I just have to evaluate that each year. One thing that our rating agencies look at, and we kind of have an unwritten policy, is a 25 to 30% fund balance as we move forward. So they take that as a percentage of your expenditures and of your revenues. So that's something that I try to calculate each year. And it's the expenses, our actual expenses we've incurred this year, actual revenues for this year. So our ending fund balance is a percentage of that. Another factor that I have to get into, and this is getting down into the weeds, as the mayor says, it's in our county financial statements. If you look on the combined statements on the balance sheets, your fund balances are separated into categories. So it's a percentage factor of those as well.
Do you feel like this is the maximum amount that we could dip into this year? This and the next resolution?
This was the number that I felt comfortable with this year to provide to you.
All right.
Thank you. Any more questions? Ready to vote on 7-17-16? If you're in favor of the resolution, push your yes button. If you're not, the no button. Now's the time to change your vote. Anyone wishing to change your vote, please do so. Mrs. Anderson, would you record the vote for us?
23 yes, 0 no.
Thank you, ma'am. Resolution passes unanimously. 7-17-17, resolution appropriating amending the 17-18 county general fund budget by $985,400. Revenues to come from the reserve of our county government capital projects. Commissioner Osborne.
Move for approval.
Proper motion is second. It went to one committee. And committee report and an explanation, please.
Budget Committee 3-4-0 against, and this is revenues that would be coming from the reserve for county government capital projects, how we would pay for them.
Thank you. Questions? See none. You ready to vote? 7-17-17. All in favor? push their yes button. Those opposed, the no button. Anyone wishing to change your vote, please do so at this time. Mrs. Anderson, would you record the vote, please?
Okay, 23 yes, 0 no.
The resolution passed unanimously. 71718, coming out of the Solid Waste Department, resolution appropriating amending the 2017-18 capital budget by $480,000, revenues coming from their unappropriated solid waste sanitation fund balance. Commissioner Osborne.
Move for approval.
Proper motion. Committee report and an explanation. Dana.
Budget Committee 340 against, and this is unappropriated solid waste sanitation fund balance paying for expenditures.
Questions on 71718? Ready to vote? All those in favor, push the yes button. Those the no, opposed, push the no button. Anyone wishing to change your vote, now's the time to do this. Mrs. Anderson?
23 yes, 0 no.
Resolution passes unanimously. 71719, coming out of the Highway Department, resolution amending the 17-18 Highway Department budget and appropriating up to $790,000 for highway equipment purchases, revenues to come from the unappropriated highway fund balance. Commissioner Green.
I move for approval.
Second.
Proper motion and second. Committee reports the Highway Commission was 5-0. Budget Committee.
340 against.
Mr. Green.
This is to replace equipment that's end of life and that requires equipment to maintain the inventory of the Highway Department.
Thank you, sir. Questions? It's taking it out of their fund balance. You ready to vote? All in favor of this, please push your yes button. Those opposed, the no button. Anyone wishing to change your vote, now's the time to do it. Mrs. Anderson, would you record the vote? Waiting on Steve. There.
23 yes, 0 no.
Resolution passes 23-0. Resolution 71720, coming out of the Highway Department. A resolution amending the 17-18 county projects budget and appropriating up to $6,250,000 for capital improvements for cost on Arno Road. Revenue to come from unappropriated highway fund balance. Commissioner Green.
Move for approval.
Proper motion and second. Committee report. Highway Committee 5-0. Budget Committee.
340 against.
Mr. Green.
This is after the study on Arno Road. This is the improvements that are needed to improve the mobility of traveling Arno Road, and it's sorely needed.
We've got the road superintendent here, and we've got the engineering consultant. If anybody has any questions about this resolution. Judy?
So when are you talking about? I thought it was going to be this summer y'all were going to start. Is it next year?
Ask him to come up to the microphone, Eddie, so everyone can hear it out in the television land. The question was asked again, Judy.
When is your projected date? I thought my understanding was you were going to start this summer. Was that not right?
Well, we had two public hearings at Page High School Auditorium, and the last one, they had a lot of comments, and we had to go back and work their comments into what we already had, so that kind of delayed the whole situation.
Okay.
So that's what it is.
So when do you think y'all will?
Well, you're going to have to bid this project out, so you're probably looking in the next spring, next year sometime probably.
Maybe next summer when school's out?
Probably, maybe a little before then. We just have to work to see what kind of bid we get and when they can start.
Okay, thank you.
Don't go away, Eddie. Commissioner Sturgeon?
Yeah, this is a result of that thoroughfare study, right? So I know Sneed Road was also on that study. Is there a plan at all for Sneed Road?
Well, what we looked at, we did have Sneed, Clovercroft, Linwood Way, and Arnold Road. What drove us to Arnold Road was the accidents. That road had more accidents than the other three put together, so that's why we went towards Arnold Road at this time.
So they're first, so then how are you going to deal with the other three?
Well, we just had to get them as the money, this is coming out of the fund balance. As the fund balance stayed pretty healthy, we're going to do a little bit at a time. But Sneed Road, you got Stevens Valley up there, which they're projected to do a lot of improvements to Sneed Road. So.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've been down the road a lot, and the construction traffic's tearing up the road pretty well down on the Pasco end, and I'm just wondering how long will it be that way?
Well, we went through that 2 years ago and milled out some places and patched them back with a pave machine, and we're going to continue to do that. We're not going to just forget Sneed Road. We'll still do that.
Okay.
You should be good.
So you don't really have a priority for the other three?
Well, not right now, because we're going to get through Varno first, and then we're going to kind of get with Chad and just kind of see which one is next.
Okay. All right, well, just let me know, okay?
We'll do.
Okay, thanks.
Commissioner Lawrence?
Morning, Eddie. I just wanted you to run down exactly what you're going to do. I know this is including the improvements in front of Page, correct?
Page High School, 840 and Arnold Road, as well as on the 96 and Arnold Road.
Okay, so intersection of 96 and Arnold Road,
Correct.
Page, and then the 840 area.
Correct.
Okay, so both ends in the middle, basically.
Exactly.
Okay, all right.
And
Thank
if
you.
I could follow up on that, Eddie touched base on why it's a good time for Arnold Road and Highway 96, because the state of Tennessee is getting ready to widen that stretch of the road.
Right, well, they actually going to be a little further east than that, but we are going to have to coordinate whenever we get on that end with TDOT as well as 840 and with TDOT as well, so, which I think we can do that with relative ease.
96 is already 4-lane there, right?
That's right, but we're going to come out onto it. You know, we're going to make a 2-lane coming out on from Arnold to 96.
Okay.
So
And I know this is redundant for Eddie to have to say, but Chad, have Chad come up here in our closing moments before we go for lunch, but Chad spends quite a bit of time with the TDOT, Tennessee Department of Transportation, and it's not that easy just to pick up the phone and call them and say, we want to connect to the road. I'm sure you understand that.
It'll be probably a 3 to 6 month process, and we actually enlisted Volkert Engineering, who does a lot of TDOT work, to help us with the coordination with them. They're much more familiar than most of us here are in the county. They deal with them on a daily basis. They can expedite that process quite a bit.
Okay.
Andrew? Y'all ready to vote? Or got other questions? Ready to go. 7-17-20, 6,250,000. All in favor. Push the yes button. Those opposed, the no button. Anyone wishing to change their vote, now's the time to do it. Mrs. Anderson, would you record it for us, please?
23 yes, 0 no.
Thank you, ma'am. This is our stopping point, ladies and gentlemen. We'll come back with 7-17-21. Remember, it's at the Enrichment Center. We'll take pictures first, Diane. Take pictures first, and then we'll get us about to eat. Be back here about 1:15-ish, if we can. We'll get started and try to get us out of here. Thank you.